Okay, this week we're talking about self-nurture. We're going to talk about the science of mindfulness. We're going to talk about the different types of mindfulness out there and different types of meditations or things that you can do to become more mindful. We're going to talk about what being conscious during your day can look like. We're going to touch on gratitude and what the science is about that. And then we're going to devise your self-nurture plan. And there's lots of exercises in the workbook to support that. And it will be a kind of work in progress throughout the next 6 months. So it won't be your final plan, but hopefully it will get you into a place where you can really start to support yourself better. So I want to tell you about this new drug that improves immune function. It reduces inflammation. It reduces blood pressure and anxiety, PMS and menopausal symptoms, depression. It makes it easier to stop addictive habits like smoking. It decreases emotional eating. It increases emotional intelligence. It improves insight and self-regulation. It improves distractibility and impulsivity related to ADHD. It decreases feelings of stress. It decreases pain associated with chronic illness. It improves memory and concentration. It improves decision-making and creative thinking. It protects the brain against the effects of aging, and it increases happiness and compassion. And there are no negative side effects. The only drawback is that you have to sit quietly for 20 minutes while you take it. Now, you've probably cottoned on to the fact that I'm not talking about a tablet that you can take once a day. I'm talking about meditation or mindfulness. And as parents, I realise that the drawback of sitting quietly for 20 minutes a day is a heavy drawback, and particularly when it's one that you have to remain really focused on. However, let's be clear, I'm talking about measurable benefits here. Benefits that have been measured, have been part of really robust scientific studies which MRI people's brains before and after meditating for 20 minutes a day for 8 weeks. And what the MRI showed is visual changes in the shape and structure of the brain. The amygdala actually shrank in all of the participants, whilst simultaneously increasing the connections between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, all of which make it easier for you to calm down. So we know scientifically that 20 minutes has measurable impacts and can give you all of this stuff because it's been measured. But that's not to say that shorter time frames are not beneficial as well. And from my experience of working with many people in this field and from the sort of cumulative experience of so many practitioners out there who say the same, daily mindful practice is going to have huge benefits, whether it's 20 minutes or more or less, it's going to have benefits. Probably doing it for longer will give you a slight edge, but if you can only manage 1 minute or 3 minutes or 5 minutes a day, it is going to make a huge impact on your parenting, on your ability to be calm, on your brain, on the aging process, on everything that I've listed here. And what it's going to enable you to do as part of your parenting is to take a pause and stop yourself from being hijacked by your emotions so that you can re-engage your thinking brain. So at this point, when I'm talking about meditation, most people start to get worried about the fact that they're not able to quiet their mind. But that's not actually the goal of meditation. The goal is to be present with whatever is happening. So once you notice your brain spiraling away, the goal is to bring yourself back to stillness and to do that with compassion. So I encourage people to look at it in terms of actually the more it happens, the more your brain kind of goes off, just the more opportunities you have to practice awareness and bring yourself back and to practice that self-compassion for yourself as well. Don't beat yourself up about it. You're doing your best and you've noticed, so congratulate yourself. Don't berate yourself for letting your brain drift off. In the resources section of the course, you'll find some meditations there. I'm often adding different meditations to there, so you can explore some of them. If my meditations don't work for you, that's absolutely fine. And you might find that some work well for you and others don't. So play around with them and see what works. But there's also loads of apps out there. There's Insight Timer, which has free resources on there and a paid for option. There's Calm, there's Headspace. Spotify and YouTube also have lots of free meditations. So find some things that you like and practice with those, and just try and get yourself into a really regular habit. Now, if you've resisted this so far, my challenge to you is to really start meditating every day from now, even if it's just for 1 minute, and make a promise to yourself that you're going to start. You might find you need to do it at the same time every day to make sure that it happens. So for me, that's in the car outside school. So before school pickup, I go slightly early. Normally, there's a little pause between my commute to the hospital where I sometimes work and to home. So to school. So I have a 10-minute buffer, and that means that I can use that time to meditate. It guarantees me 5 days a week that I'm going to be able to meditate. And on the weekends, I have the luxury of meditating on my bed. So I do a lying down meditation on the weekends. So that's how I do it. For you, it might look like getting up early. If your kids don't get up stupidly early, you might want to get up first, make yourself a nice drink, and enjoy the quiet and stillness of your house and meditate then. It might be going out for a walk every day and doing a walking meditation. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just the consistency and creating that habit. Okay, so getting more conscious. We spend a lot of our day on autopilot. If we can get a bit more conscious throughout our days, we've got the opportunity to process our emotions as they come up rather than stuffing them back down. Because what happens when we stuff them back down is we're just temporarily avoiding them, and they will continue to bubble up until they're felt. And they can then start coming up at really annoying, irritating times and trigger us into having reactions which are nothing to do with the actual situation. So if we can process them in the moment, it makes our lives much simpler and much easier. We'll also be able to feel more connection to the people around us, and they will feel more connection to us if we're able to sort of be conscious and present during our day. And that's going to deepen our relationship and essentially increase our enjoyment that we get out of life and out of those relationships. We're also far less likely to get triggered by the big emotions as they come up. And perhaps most importantly, you'll notice all those magical little moments, those glimmers as they're now known, that make life so much more meaningful. But how do we do this? Well, one way to do it is to bring mindful attention to the mundane tasks that you do with your child. So as you help them get dressed, even though you know they can do it for themselves, notice the softness of their skin, their beautiful eyes, as they look at you with that kind of relief that you're going to help them, even though they can do it themselves. As you carry your exhausted child out of the car when they're pretending to be asleep, notice the weight of their little head on your shoulders and their trusting arms draped around you. You might also try and notice the sensations in your body as you do really boring tasks. So instead of following the chatter in your brain or thinking about what you're going to do next while you're doing the washing up, notice the temperature of the water and the feeling of the bubbles against your skin. Another thing that can help us be more conscious is creating little rituals that remind us to be present and tagging these onto something that we already do routinely. So, for example, while you're brushing your teeth in the morning, you could look at yourself in the mirror and say something kind to yourself. You could notice the first taste of a hot drink that you have during your day. So really savor that first sip of your cup of tea and bring yourself back into kind of conscious presence so that you can enjoy the moment rather than just getting on with things while you happen to have a cup of tea in your hand. Another thing that can be really helpful is to place sticky notes around the house or your place of work with little reminders to breathe or with short mantras that inspire you. And that has the added benefit of influencing others in your household as well. So that can work really well. And my final suggestion is to set an alarm to go off on your phone a few times a day. So when it goes off, check in with yourself. How are you feeling? Ask yourself, is there anything that you can give yourself in that moment to feel a bit better? If you can't do something for yourself at that moment, promise yourself that you'll give it to you as soon as you can. But just having those little breaks, noticing how you feel, gives your nervous system a little reset. And that can be a really helpful way of just noticing and bringing yourself back, centering yourself. So if you turn to your workbook now, you'll find these options listed. And I'd like you to select at least one that you're going to commit to trying for at least a week. So spend the next 5 minutes or so setting yourself up for that habit so that you make sure that it happens.